Hello girls, welcome to this video lecture on implicit function theorem. This is a topic in the functions of several variables, which is the unit 4 of your paper M102 real analysis. So before we actually start the statement and proof of this implicit function theorem, we just will discuss a small introduction which gives us an insight into the theorem for functions of several variables. What we were going to do now is we will just define or understand this for functions of two variables. So, if f is continuously differentiable, real function. In the plane. So usually for continuously differentiable functions, we define that as the set C dash. Okay, that is the set C dash means continuously differentiable function. So f belongs to C dash. Then the equation. See, what do you have? Implicit function means a function which cannot be solved. Suppose if you have two variables, see, y is equal to sin x is an explicit function. Y is written explicitly in terms of x. Whereas if you take an equation like x square plus y square minus 1 equal to 0, you cannot write y explicitly in terms of x. So that is an implicit. So that means an equation involving f of x comma y equal to 0. If y is equal to f of x, then it becomes explicit. Otherwise, if f of x comma y equal to 0, we say that as an implicit function. So then the equation, you can solve that explicitly at certain points or under certain conditions. That is what we are going to write here. Then the equation f of xy equal to 0 can be solved for y in terms of x in the neighborhood of any point AB at which. So you can solve this if these conditions are satisfied. If at which f of AB is equal to 0 and dou f by dou y is not equal to 0. F of a comma b should satisfy the equation f of x comma y equal to 0, and the derivative of f with respect to y should not vanish. Then you can express y in terms of x. Similarly, you can express x in terms of y provided dou f by dou x is not 0. F of AB is 0 and dou f by dou x is not 0 at that particular point. So if this happens, then we can solve for x or y explicitly. Dou f by dou y not equal to 0. Likewise, one can solve for x in terms of y near the point AB if dou f by dou x is not equal to 0 at a comma b. So for a simple example, you can just consider x square plus y, f of x comma y is equal to x square plus y square minus 1. So if you take dou f by dou x, it becomes 2x, dou f by dou y becomes 2y, and when if dou f by dou x is where it is 0, dou f by dou x will be 0. Dou f by dou x will be 0 means x is equal to 0. Dou f by dou y is equal to 0 means y is equal to 0. So you should have the points other than these points where dou f by dou x is not equal to 0, dou f by dou y is not equal to 0. You can solve. If dou f by dou y is not 0, then you can solve for y in terms of x, and if dou f by dou x is not 0, then you can solve x in terms of y. So this is an introduction of this. This is the simplest form of the implicit function theorem, where we are going to generalize. This is for two variables. We can generalize it for n number of variables. That's what we are talking about, because this topic is all about functions of several variables. So the same concept, when we extend it to more number of variables, that is what we are going to prove, and we are going to call it as implicit function theorem. Before we start with the statement of the theorem, we shall just get to know some notations. Okay. Suppose if you have x as x1, x2, etc., xn, which belongs to Rn, and y is equal to y1, y2, etc., ym, which belongs to Rm, then we write a point x comma y for the point, or you can call it as vector also. How do you write? You can write it as x1, x2, etc., xn, comma, y1, y2, etc., ym, and which should be belonging to Rn plus m. So what does this mean? Suppose if you write a point, suppose xy is a point, in Rn plus m, which implies that x is the first symbol, that is x is belonging to, x belongs to Rn, and y belongs to, x belongs to Rn and y belongs to Rm. So every linear operator A belongs to L of Rn plus m comma Rn, you can split it into, can be split into two transformations. How do you do that? Let us just see. Two transformations, Ax and Ay. X and Ay defined by Ax h is equal to A of h comma 0, and Ay k means it is A of 0 comma k. For any, from where you take this h belongs to Rn and k belongs to Rm. Then what should be? Ax should be belonging to L of Rn, and Ay should be belonging to L of Rm comma Rn. And A of hk is nothing but Axh plus Ayk. So any linear operator A has been split into two transformations, Ax and Ay. Now let us look at the definition or the statement of the implicit function theorem. So implicit function theorem says, like what we have seen was the simple case when n is equal to m is equal to 1, what we had discussed till now, that applies. The same thing can be extended for n number of more number of variables, that is functions of several variables. So you can see here the statement says, let F be a continuously differentiable mapping of an open set E subset of Rn plus m into Rn. So you can see that F belongs to, here you can say that F belongs to, so F be a continuously differentiable mapping, which implies F belongs to C dash. Okay, that is the set of continuously differentiable mapping of the points of E. Okay, now you can see that F is a continuously differentiable mapping from E to E of Rn plus m to Rn into Rn, such that F of AB is equal to 0 for some point AB belongs to E, and F dash of AB is equal to A, that is the linear operator. So you can see that this is the differential operator. Every differentiation is nothing but a linear operator with Ax is invertible. So one of the transformation is invertible. That means it is bijective. Then there exists open set U subset of Rn plus m and W subset of Rm with A comma B belonging to U and B belongs to W, having the property to every Y belongs to W corresponds a unique X such that X comma Y belongs to U and f of X comma Y is equal to 0. If this X is defined to be G of Y, then G is continuously differentiable mapping of W into Rn. That means if X is equal to G of Y, then this G is nothing but continuously differentiable mapping, that is G belongs to C dash. G of B is equal to A, f of G of Y comma Y equal to 0, and you have to show that G dash of B is nothing but minus of Ax whole inverse into Ay inverse. This is the two transformations that A can be, that the linear operator can be split into. So this is the statement. So we have to prove this statement in two parts. So we shall first start with the first part, where so we have seen that in the statement they have given the equation f of x comma y equal to 0. So we shall just try to understand this first before we actually start the proof. So let me just write it here. What is given in the statement? The equation f of x comma y equal to 0. This has been given, and you know this can be, because it is a function of n plus m variables, this can be written as a system of n equations in how many variables? N plus m variables. In n plus m variables. So how do you write this? This is written as f1 of x1, x2, etc., xn, y1, y2, etc., ym is equal to 0. f2 of x1, x2, etc., xn, y1, y2, etc., ym is equal to 0. Similarly, you have fn of x1, x2, etc., xn, comma y1, y2, etc., yn is equal to 0. You can call this as a system of equations 1. And what is that we have seen? The assumption that Ax is invertible, that also is there in the statement. The assumption that Ax is invertible. The transformation Ax is invertible means that the n by n matrix. What is that n by n matrix? So this from the derivatives. Okay, d1 f1 etc. dn f1. Then you will have d1 fn etc. dn fn. So this matrix which is evaluated. Suppose you find this matrix and evaluate it at the point a comma b, defines an invertible linear operator in Rn. Athwa, in other words, what you can say? In other words, its column matrix or columns of this matrix, column vector should be independent. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನರ್ಥ? ಅದನ್ನ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಇಂಡಿಪೆಂಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ? Or you can say equivalently its determinant should be not equal to 0. Okay. Suppose if furthermore, whatever the equations 1 that we have, if furthermore equation 1 holds, means satisfies, when x is equal to a and y is equal to b, then the theorem concludes that, then the conclusion of the theorem, what does it mean? Theorem is that one can be solved. See, this is what we had said in the very simple case. For two variables, we had said that x can be solved in terms of y and y can be solved in terms of x. The same way here, because it is more number of variables, we are extending that concept to the more number of variables. Here you have this determinant. Okay, this determinant matrix, this matrix of derivatives should not be equal to 0. So, which means that equation 1 can be solved for x1, x2, etc., xn in terms of y1, y2, etc., yn. For all y near b. And that these solutions are continuously differentiable. So that is what they say when in the theorem they state that the G is continuously differentiable. Continuously differentiable. So this is how we have understood the statement of the theorem. So now we shall go for proving this theorem. Okay. Proof. What we will do is we will define a function f by f of x comma y is equal to f of x comma y comma y. Where is this x comma y come from? This x comma y belongs to E. Let us call this as equation 2. Then, what can you say about f? F belongs to C dash. C dash is what? This is continuously differentiable mapping. Of C dash of E, of course. Okay. Where into Rn plus M. F belongs to C dash of E and E is a mapping from E to Rn plus M. So now we claim that F dash of AB is invertible. Invertible element of L of Rn plus M. Okay. Now, what is that given in the theorem? Since f of AB is equal to 0, what do we have? We have f of A plus H, comma B plus K can be written as a linear operator of A of H, comma K plus R of H, comma K. This is like the remainder remainder which occurs in the definition of f dash. Okay, the definition f dash, when we wrote it as a linear operator, we knew that there was a remainder function. So this is similar to that, where R is the remainder that occurs in the definition of f dash of A. Okay, now we already know this, since f of A plus H, comma B plus K minus f of AB, you can write it as f of A plus H, comma B plus K, comma K, which in terms of this linear operator, what we have just now said is A of H, comma K, comma K plus R of H, comma K, comma 0. So with this, it follows that f dash of AB is the linear operator on R of En plus M that maps H, comma K to A of H, comma K, comma K. So you can see that from the definition here, what we have got just now. Suppose if this image vector is 0, if this image vector is 0, then what do we get? A of H, comma K is equal to 0 and K is equal to 0. That's what happens, isn't it? The image vector is A of H, comma K and K, and if that is 0, then we will be getting A of H, comma K is equal to 0 and K also equal to 0. Hence, f dash of AB is 1-1 mapping, and so is, and hence it is invertible. Okay, this is because since a linear operator linear operator A in a finite dimensional vector space is 1 1 if and only if the range of A is all of x. So because of this reason, what we can say now is this, since f dash of AB is 1 1, hence it is invertible, because if A is a if a linear operator A in a finite dimensional vector space is 1 1 if and only if the range of A is all of x. So that's the reason why we will get f dash of AB is 1 1 mapping. So now what does this mean? Therefore we can apply the inverse function theorem. The inverse function theorem can therefore be applied to f, because ಈಗ f ಏನೇನು ಇನ್ವರ್ಸ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಥಿಯರಮ್ದು ಏನು ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. So it shows that, which means that there exist open sets U and V in R n plus m with A comma B belongs to U comma 0 comma B belongs to V such that F is 1 1 mapping of U onto V. So now what we will do is we let W be the set of all Y belongs to Rm such that, let us define one more set W such that it contains all the points Y of Rm such that 0 comma Y belongs to V. And you please note that V belongs to W. So now it is clear that W is, it is clear that W is open. Why? Because since V is open. If Y belongs to W, then 0 comma Y will be equal to f of x comma y for some x comma y belongs to U. So this is obvious, and f dash of x comma y should be equal to 0 for this particular x. Okay, suppose with the same y, whatever we have got y now, suppose with the same y that x dash comma y belongs to U and f of x dash comma y is equal to 0, then f of x dash y is equal to how did you define this? This is f of x dash comma y, which is nothing but f of x comma y, and this is nothing but the definition of f of x comma y. And since f is 1 1 already we have got, since f is 1 1, what does this mean? So f of x dash y is equal to f of x y should imply x dash is equal to x. 1 1 in u comma, it follows that x dash is equal to x. So this proves the first part of the theorem. Now for second part, okay, for second part, let us define g of y for y belongs to w, so that g of y comma y belongs to u and f of g of y comma y is equal to 0 holds. So then what does that give you? Capital F of g of y comma y is equal to 0 comma y such that y belongs to w. Let us call this as equation 3. If G is a mapping of V on to U, that inverts F. That means F inverse is the mapping from V to U, then G belongs to C dash. Okay, this is by the inverse function theorem. And equation 3 gives g of y comma y is equal to capital G of 0 comma y belongs to w. Call this as equation 4. And now what do we know? Since G belongs to C dash, comma 4 shows that G also, small g also should be belonging to C dash. So finally, to compute, last step it is to compute g dash of b, put g of y comma y is equal to phi of y. Then phi dash of y k is equal to g dash of y k comma k, where y belongs to w and k belongs to r. Call this as relation phi. And since we have just known from the previous slides, we know that f of g of y comma y is equal to 0. This implies f of phi of y is equal to 0. Okay, f of phi of y is equal to 0. in W. So now the chain rule, we can easily say this. The chain rule shows therefore that, how can you use the chain rule here? F dash of phi of y into phi dash of y is equal to 0. So when y equal to b, then what will be phi of y? Is equal to a comma b and f dash of phi of y is equal to a. Thus, what do we get? Thus from this result we get, what do we get? A times phi dash of b is equal to 0. Call this as result 6. So it now follows from 6, 5 and also the data which says. So it now follows from 6, 5 and the result. What we know this already, and the result a of h comma k. This we have this we have seen when we were discussing about the simple case of implicit function theorem. A of h comma k, a can be split into two transformations, axh plus ayk. So we using all these three, we get ax g dash of b into k plus ay k is equal to a times g dash of b k comma k, which is equal to a phi dash of b into k, which is equal to 0 for all k belongs to Rm. Thus, ax g dash of b plus ay is equal to 0. So this gives you simply g dash of b is equal to, you solve equation 7 for g dash of b, that gives you minus ax inverse into ay, and hence the proof. What we can see here is just a small note here before we end this video. You can just write a note which will help you to understand it better. In terms of the components, if you want to write this, in terms of the components of f and g, equation 7 becomes summation j is equal to 1 to n dj fi ab to dk gj of b, okay, is equal to minus dn plus k fi at ab. Or you can also write this as summation j is equal to 1 to n dou fi by dou xj into dou gj by dou yk, dou gj by dou yk is equal to minus dou fi divided by dou yk, where 1 less than or equal to I less than or equal to n, and k also lies between 1 and I lies between 1 and n, k lies between 1 and m, and for each k this is a system of this is a system of n linear equations in which let me just write this properly, in which the derivatives dou gj by dou yk for 1 less than or equal to j less than or equal to n are the unknowns. So if you want to write this in terms of the components of f and g, this is how these equations look like, or the unknowns. So this is how we can understand the implicit function theorem.